your ex-husband is.
Just trying to be cool, but we were talking about Zeitgebers, little things that have to do with the environment. And you don't want to wear UV protection in the sun because that UV is good for your eyes. You want to take in that light. But if you're after dark, for your circadian and diurnal rhythms to be flowing right, it's good to wear UV protection if you've got artificial light kicking after sundown.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. I've been on crazy health kicks lately, dude. The last, since getting all the bad habits sorted, balanced, at least healthy, healthy approaches to them anyway.
Yeah.
This stuff is my godsend, my kratom, dude. Fucking off.
What is it?
Kratom?
Oh, kratom. Yeah, I've heard about that. What is it? Does it come from the ocean?
No. It's I take a lot of stuff that does come, like the spirulina and stuff like that. I love it, man. Superfood stuff. The kratom is it's Mitragina speciosa, is a cousin to the coffee plant. It has a very unique alkaloid structure. I think 28 different alkaloids, and it makes it work in your body similar to it gives it opioid properties. It's not an opiate, but it scratches that same itch. So for someone like me who's been through the ringer with all the opiates and stuff, it's kept me clean and healthy and just kind of scratches that same itch without getting me all fucked up. It doesn't inebriate. I'd say caffeine is a far more dangerous drug than kratom.
Wow.
Real
I'm
talk.
Here just chugging it down.
Hey, me too. I love my caffeine, man.
Oh.
I'm just saying, because the FDA's got a problem with it right now because, the reason why is because ex-addicts are finding out that it's real beneficial in recovery. Like people who used to be giving money to the methadone clinics and the Suboxone and big pharma, all these, the AMA and all the different heart cancer, diabetes associations, and these groups are all bedfellows. This. So with the healthcare industry and big pharma, they don't want. That's the FDA included, the CDC, all these groups. They don't want people finding a holistic remedy to something. So here I am. How much money am I stealing a year just alone myself by not taking methadone or Suboxone to treat my former opiate addiction? You know what I mean? Right. And I'm healthy as hell, dude. I'm healthy as hell, man. I feel great all the time.
All that money was going into black budget stuff.
Yeah. And dude, I'd put money on, fentanyl. I don't know how much you know about these sort of drugs, opiates, but now you've got all these junkies dying because the heroin's laced with fentanyl. I would almost put money on that being a CIA thing because fentanyl's not easy to come by and it's not cheap. So why are you going to make your dope stronger with an even better opiate that if it's killing your clientele, it doesn't make sense unless you want the junkies dead.
Yeah, or unless they're doing an experiment, to see how many people they can kill or whatever,
There was a time when every now and then I could get my hands on some fentanyl back in 2007, stuff like that. Man, I loved it. It's a strong opiate. It's pretty good. But somehow this stuff they're putting in the tar these days, it's killing motherfuckers.
Are you serious? Is it a big problem right now?
Oh yeah. Heroin junkies are dying left and right, dude. From it, they just drop like flies.
And it's all going down as overdoses, isn't it?
For the most part, yeah. And if they do a toxicology, they'll say, well, he got his hands on heroin that was laced with fentanyl. But I'm sure that's CIA, dude, you know?
Yeah.
Or
That
another
sounds about how they
alphabet
operate.
soup.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yep. Shit's crazy. It's crazy. So you passed out, huh? Miss
Yeah,
KJ?
dude, big time.
Bummer.
I was down for the count.
Yeah, if it felt like anything supernatural, there's all kinds of different potential causes for something like that. You know as well as I do, man. But the technology is real easy. Like, for example, if I'm having a hard time sleeping, I'll put on a binaural beat, you know, to get those theta waves kicking, theta or delta, you know, and just, I'm out, dude. There's some really good ones for lucid dreaming. If you want to practice your, you know, astral abilities, it's great when you can make your own decisions in a dream state.
Wow.
It's fucking cool
have you been
shit.
able to do that?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not a master at it or anything, you know, but it's just one of these. A lot of these things, you know, they take exercise, and I view all these things since my healing. I told you about my healing, man, and you know my initial in 2010, and since then, because I'm no stranger to vices and bad habits and fucked up thinking and all kinds of things that I'm lucky to have lived through, but it's definitely. I'm of the mindset, and I got a lot of this too. I got inspired on this by reading Robert Anton Wilson's books. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Cosmic Trigger.
Well, I'm familiar with his Tales
Right?
from the Illuminati.
Illuminatus trilogy, yeah, that shit's great. Yeah, it's quirky. It's like if that whole series is like if Douglas Adams was talking about the Illuminati the whole time. And I think the only reason they didn't knock Wilson off for writing it was because he made it look so outlandish in this quirky science fiction story. It's like Hitchhiker's Guide with
he made it look like a foolish idea.
Yeah, but he got all these great historical truths in there, everywhere from going all the way back to the Hashashin up through the Templars, and just how the mystery school kept spreading. It was really cool, man. Yeah, it's a good book if you can get down with his style of homage to beat poet type of dig it daddy-o type writing.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I can because I probably can, you know, if I applied myself, but I just had the book recently. Somebody left it at my house, you know, big coincidence or whatever, and I read some of it, you know. That part at the very beginning was kind of dragging me out about where that sheriff was like, you know, they gave, you know, whatever, mushrooms or something to all those kids accidentally.
Yeah, something like that.
Everybody was tripping.
It's been years. It's wordy, man. He's wordy. The way he writes that book, especially, it's just like, what, dude? I like the way it starts out, though. It says, I think it's the very first portion. It says, it was the day that they finally immanentized the eschaton.
Immunitized the what?
It was the day that they finally immanentized the eschaton. The eschaton is the apocalypse, apocalypse means unveiling.
Yeah, they made it imminent. Immanentized. Yeah.
Immanentized. I think he made that word up for that too. I don't think that's proper.
Yeah, but I make up shit. I make up words like that all the time. You know, it's still based on another word. That's a word. You know, immanentized. That's a word.
It is now, man. Yeah.
I can't imagine that he's the first person that said that, but yeah, I like to make up words like that all the time, and it fucking pisses off the autocorrect. You know, they go.
Yeah.
But there's lots of real words that will fuck up an autocorrect, you know. Just a regular word.
Yeah, like I never have once meant ducking. You know.
Where'd you get that hat?
Good shit. Oh, my patch. Oh,
yeah.
I made the hat, but yeah, this patch I found it online somewhere, man.
That's cool.
I do have a family lambskin I've got a lambskin Scottish Rite apron and a Bible. I got the Masonic Bible with all the encyclopedic index in it. Good shit. Yeah.
Who was it who in your family was in the Masons?
My dad's a Mason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and his before him, and I come from a long line of Masons. I'm the only one that's not. I'm not affiliated to any specific order. Yeah. But I like a lot of your folks' works, and ways of thinking. I don't consider myself a Luciferian, really. Like I want what's best for all beings. For me, it's not all about selfish gain, but I do engage in some, especially more recently, a little hoodoo here and there, financial gain, prosperity type stuff. Like yeah. I like the folk magic. It's a little more. It's more harmless anyway. I'm not trying to call on old kings or anything, man. Those guys don't fuck around.
Yeah. Did you say hoodoo or voodoo?
Hoodoo.
Hoodoo. Yeah.
Yeah, hoodoo, man.
Then there's voodoo, and then there's voodoo. And I don't, we had somebody come talk at the lodge about it, a voodoo expert, and I didn't want any part of it. We still went out in the parking lot and did a ritual, but it's like he pretty much laid it out. He's like, this is no game, and said, if you get in with those spirits, they're like jealous. You're basically down with them for life. It wasn't very appealing to me.
With voodoo?
Yeah, well, the different forms of voodoo. Yeah, their deities are very possessive and shit. It's very dangerous shit.
Yeah, I've read some stuff by some guys that do a lot, not of voodoo, but what's that one cat's name that does? He does Solomonic magic. I want to say something Stevens or Steven something. British guy, writes books on it. Can't think of his fucking name, but he talked about
Michael W. Ford. Michael W. Ford.
Oh yeah, he's the one heading the Luciferian. What's the name of their order?
Well, maybe I don't know. He's got maybe some Typhonian order, or I'm not sure if that's it. It's maybe has something to do with the light, something about the light. But it's a different. It's like the phosphorus, the phosphorus. That word. For
Lucifer is phosphorus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. See, I'm not that hardcore, man. I'm a little more. I haven't broken past all that early and still Christian fear that was put into me. That fear of God stuff.
Yeah. It's weird. My very first memories was denying the Lord, when I was just a child and looking at that picture of Jesus and saying, that's not real. And I can remember that. A child thinking that. And of course I didn't tell anybody that. And so I haven't believed my whole life, even though I've looked into it and stuff. And now, oddly enough, I'm starting to realize, hey, wait, maybe there's something to this,
There's something to it, dude. And the way I viewed it for a long time, in the last few years, I've become more and more open-minded about Goetia and stuff like that. I think if it's approached properly, it is probably one of the more proper ways to honor God. I might go to hell for thinking something like that. If there is such a place, then I kind of don't believe there is. But I think it's a state of vibrational disconnect from source. And what they call the second death in the Bible. But in the book of Abramelin, Abraham of Worms talks about how he's like, basically he's reckoned Solomonic magic. He says to observe the planets is an abomination to the Most High, and that you don't do that. And that's why Crowley poo-pooed his work, The HGA, but they don't. But they don't adhere to any of his other stuff. They still use the bromelain oil. That recipe's from Exodus. That was Moses made that recipe.
Yeah.
And wrote about it.
Well, they were all initiates. All the big characters in the Bible were all initiates.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what Moshe is a title. Is a title of a priesthood, a priest class. So the Aaronic priesthood and the Levites, these guys were they were the fathers of Kabbalah.
Yeah. Moses, he had those 7 daughters to choose from. Remember, he went off before he went off took all the Hebrews off into the wilderness. When he first ran away from Egypt, he ran out into the desert, quote unquote desert, and he ran into that guy Jethro. And Jethro's the one who taught him all this shit. And Jethro had 7 daughters, and that's where he found the girl that he married. I don't know, I can't remember if it's Sarah or what Moses' wife's name was, but that's where he got her.
I can't either.
But Jethro was a priest of Midian. He was a Midianite, Midian. And so that's where he got the bronze serpent and all that shit. Yeah, I mean, the Bible is just one big story of initiation and magic from beginning to end. And yet fundamental Christians are like, oh, magic is bad. And it's like, they don't even realize their whole religion is based on purely just magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Well, the first thing that disillusioned me from Christianity was noticing that they're all worshiping on Sunday. You know what I mean? And I'm like, wait a minute. So for the longest time, I thought maybe the Seventh-day Adventists had it right. Excuse me, man. Cool to meet somebody, be able to talk about all this stuff with who comprehends it. Because in these circles, everybody's confused and mixed up about a lot of it.
They talk about a bunch of fake shit.
Well, yeah, and they're controlled by fear and that victim mentality. They're not getting anywhere with that. They're not understanding it.
No, that's the whole reason why, the whole movement, conspiracy or whatever, has been co-opted. It's to get people in that fear and everything.
Yeah.
And that's why, I think that they even had all these revelations about pizza.
Elaborate.
Oh, wow. Dude, this is huge, this last election. I mean, you can just go on the internet and look, but on Watergate. But what it is
a lot of talk some good shit, man. So there might be tidbits worth sharing or whatever,
Yeah, there really might be.
Cool
so
with
anyway,
that.
I just wanted to make you aware of that. If whatever we're talking about will, more or less be archived,
Hey, NSA's doing it. We might as well, right?
Yeah, might as well, huh? I'm not saying I believe this, but I mean, there's a fucking shitload of evidence. Well, first of all, that there's this lady named Silsbee who was kind of like Clinton's assistant, Hillary Clinton. And she was down there with Hillary and Bill Clinton in Haiti. And she got busted by the Haitian officials, Silsbee did. I mean, she's the lady that packs Hillary's underwear and shit. I mean, she's that close to Hillary Clinton. And she got busted and thrown in jail and then consequently went to prison for trying to smuggle 26 children out of Haiti while she was with the Clintons.
Wow.
I mean,
yeah, I'm not surprised by that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised about that. But you can even see where that's a psyop, just to let the world know about that. I mean, they'll throw their own people under the bus just like that. They don't care, And people would not have found out this much about. Okay, well, what it turned into is this: is that supposedly all these people talk in codes having to do with food. In other words, a certain menu. Pizza, pasta, chocolate pudding.
Hot dog.
Yeah, hot dogs, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and supposedly on one of those Air Force One flight from Chicago or something, they had $14,000 worth of pizza, or something weird like that, but they found all these people talking in codes, and I don't know exactly what the Democrats, I'm not in the left-right paradigm. And I'm not sure. I think for the most part, you wouldn't believe how many people don't hear about things that are huge. You got to be in a certain mindset to go to that news agency that covers that. You know what I mean? They don't talk about this shit on the mainstream news.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, and again, like you said, I try not to be polarized either way, and I don't believe that any one official can be our savior or anything like that. I was relieved that Trump took it over Hillary, and he's even done some things that show that he may be, not completely in the pocket of others, because he's, one of the first things he did was withdraw the United States from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's a big step against Bilderbergs, right? And he also he signed a bill. It hasn't passed. It's in the Council of Foreign Relations right now. But he signed a bill called the American Sovereignty Restoration Act of 2017 that would totally withdraw the United States from any participation in any United Nations procedures or protocols, or stuff like that. Stuff like that says that either they're working really hard to make people think he's not with the deep state, or he's not.
Well, I just
and not just that, but did you see all these liberal media hosts losing their shit because I guess their overlings told them, oh, don't, like on election night, I'm saying, when the shit was going down, they were freaking out, man.
They ran a game on them. They got a game run on them.
Their bosses must have told them, oh, don't worry, we got this in the bag.
That's exactly
Hillary's got this shit. Don't worry about it.
Just to get that moment of them crumbling and falling down and everything. It's all like a TV. It's all like a reality series.
All the world's a stage, man. But yeah, yeah.
These reality series, they sometimes tell the people, whatever, the Kardashians, they tell them in advance, oh, well, now you're going to remember that fight y'all got into the other day. Let's recreate that fight, or, something like that. So it's all scripted, but then they still play tricks on them. They don't, the producers of those reality shows don't tell the actors everything, what they're fixing to do, to trip them up the next way,
Because you want believable reactions.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about. It's, this idea of Hollywood and the intelligence agencies, or just whatever it is, the Matrix or whatever, being connected, that idea is getting really big right now. And there's some of the most groundbreaking stuff in conspiracy theories is having to do with that right now. And that brings a cognizant dissonance, because right there you can say, oh, well, that's just the movies. They're trying to relate everything to the movies or whatever. And so if that was true, then the powers that be would, every next move they had, they would put it in the movies first. And that way, as soon as somebody said, oh, that's just from the movies, you'd automatically be discounted right off the bat.
Yeah, right. So much shit like that, man.
I mean, it's amazing how many people they must have working on this shit, working overtime, creative people like you and me, sitting around thinking up the next deal.
Well, that's where I wonder where a lot of these orders come into play, man. Because you need people with our type of mind in these think tanks. Because look at it's all magic anyway. You look at corporate sigils, and all the links. Like, you telling me the people that make like the Chevron logo, for example, you've got it's basically two halves of a cube, of a two-dimensional cube. You've got it's like a red half diamond and then a blue half diamond. That's your sine waves. It's your red and blue lodges, your red pill, blue pill, and it's part of a cube. Or all the Saturn fucking shit, like the Nike swoosh, it's a Saturn vector. You've got, so in any enterprise, you're going to invoke the planets. I mean, these massive corporations do. Here's another good example. Like the number 9, for example. The number 9 is death. In the occult numerology, because it was the 9th hour that Christ was crucified. That's just one of the reasons. This 9/11, nine's it's death. In the UK, instead of 911, they call 999. Flip that over, you know what that is. But so now talking about like these huge Fortune 100 companies like Apple and Microsoft, if you notice, they're coming out with the iPhone 10, right? They went straight from iPhone 8 to iPhone 10. They skipped 9. If you remember when Microsoft was doing Windows, they skipped 9.
Wow. Good point. Now
they
9,
know this shit.
But 9 is the number of the Aniyah Gram. Do you know what an Aniyah Gram is?
The Ennead? You mean like the nine gods of Egypt?
Well, yeah, obviously it's related because Aniyah Gram, Ennead, it sounds the same, and they both incorporate the number 9. And of course, you know how many members of the band Slipknot there are, right? Well, and she got back with me and said she'd pay for everything. And so how could I say no? You know what I mean? We had already been planning it. I felt like a dick, turning her down and everything. But what had happened between when we had agreed to do it and when I went down there, that's when she gave me the bad news. And she thought I would back out, that she had to, that weekend that we we're going to be together, she had to go to fucking Utah, which is like a, 7-hour drive or some shit like that, and pick up all this shit. But I immediately just said, no, cool. That's our, that gives us something to do. It's our mission. Drive across the street, go get all this shit.
Right.
And then, but I started bringing up the fact that anytime I travel, I like to mix it with some type of investigation or something like that. And so we started talking about it, and that's how I found out about the petroglyphs in Utah. And of course I had known about them. When you watch Ancient Aliens, a lot of those things that they're showing that look like aliens are right here from in the United States, and it's right over there in Utah. It's those petroglyphs.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a whole nother subject right there. But of course, I took extensive pictures while I was down there, and I turned it into an investigation. But anyway, on the way up there, we got some smoke. And by the way, Colorado just obviously has the most fine smoke.
Mm-hmm. Fire.
So we picked some up from her friend, and then this is when I found out. Oh, he was in the. This guy's like high ranking. He goes all over the world and shit doing. And I was like, wow, And then, but anyway, when we were coming back, we were going to spend the night there. So on the way back after we had, we came, and so we spent the night, and we were going to do it that night or something. But the next day, anyway, me and her decided to do it the next morning when we woke up, and so next thing. Balls out tripping. And I even got warned by one of my psychics before I went down there that, hey, these people have some shields up. I can't see what they're up to. I think this might be some. And, but anyway, so then he had left. He was going to leave in somewhere, go down the mountain. He was going to leave us alone right there. And he came in and put on a show for us, which is like a movie on his new TV, which is a huge fucking, paper thin TV. Suspicion. But so they put me and my brother up on the desk where we're standing up, and he's a tall man, and he's standing right there behind us. So he's still our height, even though we're standing on a desk. We're like, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years old. I was probably 8, and my brother was probably 6 or something like that, 5 or 6. Well, and anyway, and we were wearing our suits and stuff, but in one of the pictures, I just went like that. I just held up the peace sign like that. And that's what my mom was so mad about, because we got these official pictures back, and one of them I'm going like this. And, I felt bad about it, but not that bad. But then years later, when I discovered that this is one of the symbols or one of the signs for the Illuminati, I was like, dude, that's weird for an 8-year-old kid to go in there with great uncle and just throw that shit up.
Yeah, right. Wow, yeah.
I talk about that.
Might be, into it, we're real perceptive as children. All the fluoride hasn't kicked in and stuff like that. It takes a long time to get completely conditioned by this this physical realm, this material realm, to the point to where we have to break, for a lot of people, they can't even do it, but the cognitive dissonance is so strong that it's paradigm shattering for a lot of people.
Oh, it is.
And,
It's absolutely
and
paradigm shattering.
And that stuff is pure and fresh and more easy to comprehend when you're a child and people are trying to tell you all these bullshit things about the way the world is, and these, magic isn't real, and this is like that, and that's like I don't know, you feel what I'm saying.
One thing we realized, both breaking away from that programming and stuff like that, is another paradigm shifting thing is like you and I have both on our own and individually and separately, and as individuals have had to wrestle with the idea of like, oh my God, I was under total mind control.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if you were to measure a man's wealth by the number of beliefs that he has, I would be a far poorer man right now than I was just even 2 years ago. And that's what made me realize, oh my God, one thing that people do is they go through life collecting beliefs. Now, they don't just grab onto any belief that comes their way. It takes time for this belief to wash over them again and again and again. But by getting older, they're collecting beliefs to where people who are over 30 or 35 years old, they've got so many beliefs. They're just a belief system. And then when you're that age or a little bit older, and then you break out of that, I don't recommend that for your average person.
Right.
Your average motherfucker can just not fucking go through what I've been through in this world, that I all put on myself, and all by choice in retrospect, but no less of a bitch. It's still very hard.
People lose their shit. Yeah, not everybody survives. It's the same with the mysteries. Like they say a lot of people lose their minds getting into, and like I said, I'm not in the depths of that, but that's reason for initiations and things.
Yeah, exactly. And really seeing this, or maybe it was something astral, but I thought she kept getting on my laptop. Well, that's stupid. Somebody right there in the room with you, who you might be turned off to the side, but there's no way, not even a spy could like get on your laptop that quick and do something like that. So I think I was more or less just maybe she was putting off that vibe in my imagination. I never really saw her do it, but I just kept imagining that she was on my laptop coming off them. But there was a couple things even before, like that first night that we went there, he showed me a couple things. He brings something out of his room, like a big placard that said the Grady Bunch. And it looked like a poster for the Brady Bunch, except it was in black and white. That's a referral to Grady McMurtry.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize any of the people in the pictures. They were all like animated drawings or whatever. But he showed it to me, and I didn't know exactly what impression I was getting. But I know enough about magic to know that when somebody shows, look at it for even more, they're a hand gesture or something like that. They're sending some.
Doing you one of these.
Yeah, exactly. Or, something like that. And there is a lady who's doing very good at making the stelae of revealing. She sells these on the internet. Different stuff having to do with Enochian magic and stuff. And she's a sister and everything. But one of her prize deals is this thing. It's called the stelae of revealing, which...
I'm familiar with Newt. It's got Newt, the goddess, up above, the firmament goddess, and yeah.
So you can buy one.
That's the one that the famed, when Crowley's wife went into that museum in Cairo and found 666 right before was that ayahuasca?
Yeah, and that's where they got to receive the book of the law and everything.
Yeah, and that was in 3 days. Did you know that? And we just passed the anniversary of that. That was right around the equinox, the vernal equinox that we just had about a month ago.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that doesn't.
It was, the whole thing was purportedly channeled in 3 days.
Yeah. Or
let's see that. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
This is look. See, this is a little one. You see my hand?
Oh wow. Yeah. It's your pocket version.
It's the one that they gave me when I was in
Is that the book you swore in on?
It's the book of the law, Liber
Well, I know,
Al Vel Legis or whatever.
Yes, sir. Is that the one that you swore in on? Because you got to swear in.
Put it like this: it was presented to me during. It was
Okay.
ritualistically given to me, and in reality, and everything like that. So,
Orlon Duquette, I was listening to him talk about. He did I forget who he did the interview with, but he said when he initially had joined up with the Freemasons and did I think he just did his basic 3 degrees you do in one day with them, and before OTO, and at the time he wanted to. They ask you which holy book you want to swear on, and some Masons will choose the Bible or the Quran or Bhagavad Gita or whatever their faith, but he chose the Book of the Law, and I remember him telling that story. But I also remember him. I might have the timeline mixed up. Maybe he was already high in OTO because what did he say? Yeah, but he also I don't know what degree it is. I want to say once you're at the 3rd degree. Second.
that wouldn't surprise me. A lot of the at least a 4th, maybe up to I'd say less than a half. But that's still a pretty big proportion. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I like the way he put it too, because Freemasonry makes according to them. Yeah, I dig that.
Lon's brilliant. I've met him more than once.
Have you? Yeah. I'd like to chat with the guy.
He came and talked to us one time, and I was going to buy his book, and we were alone after the deal. And for some reason, my PayPal or whatever wasn't working, and he fronted me one of his books.
Bitchin'.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Of course,
he seems really chill, man. He seems like a cool guy.
He's real chill. He's real down to earth.
I really liked the Key to Solomon's Key. It was good, but at the same time, I could tell that he was keeping things. It's a very revealing book. Don't get me wrong. He goes into some detail on Solomonic magic, and he even describes all the angels. But check this out. This is pretty cool, man. That's not where I thought it was, is it? Oh, here it is. Yeah, man, check this out. The story behind this is crazy. So this is a homemade, somebody hand bound this. This was found in the Arizona desert. It's the Key of Solomon. My ex, it came to me this way. My ex is a traveling hippie, and her and some kids she was traveling with at the time ended up they were camped out in the desert in Arizona somewhere, and they found a chest full of books, and this one was in there. A lot of them were magic books and stuff like that. This is the only one I ended up getting, but yeah, it's somebody made this,
That's hardcore, dude.
Painstakingly made this, so somebody was serious. Whoever this belonged to. Yeah,
they were doing rituals or something.
Oh yeah, it was just out there in the desert, sitting in a chest.
Yeah, the robe that I have, I sewed it myself.
That's good. I mean, that's good. It's a way to. I mean, the way a lot of, like I said, I don't do any operations, but the way that a lot of Solomonic magicians and even Duquette says, that whether these are Jungian archetypes that have been charged over the centuries through our ancestors evoking them and revering them, or if they are sentient intelligences that's kind of a debate amongst magicians, you know, whether they're actual fallen ones or if they're just these archetypes that have been empowered through time, and aspects of our psyche, our collective psyche, you know, that we call into being. But a lot of magic does seem, I guess that's the debate that there's no answer to and may never be. But
I think the answer is the same answer as it's on a lot of things, because the more I get down, you know, this voyage of discovery, the more I learn that this is not a this or that world. This is not a.
It is not.
So I think the closer answer would be both. It is somehow both of those
Right.
things at the same time. And then if we keep taking that idea bigger and bigger, what if you can finally put that model on the flat Earth theory? That the Earth is somehow
that's how I look at it these days.
and
Yeah.
flat at the same time somehow.
That's how I look at it these days, because you know, it's most everything is it's a collective manifestation. You know, it's everything that we see and experience. We know we're creators, right? And so oppressors or if you've got a bunch of subjects, you're ruling a whole bunch of people. What better way to make sure that the etheric superhighway is uncongested, so that you can do your stuff, if everybody's completely ignorant to the abracadabra they are? You know, if everybody doesn't realize that they speak into being, then what we, you know, like I think it was Lao Tzu said, be careful with your thoughts, thoughts become words. Be careful with your words, words become actions. Be careful with your actions, actions become habits. Careful with your habits, habits become character. Careful with your character, character becomes destiny. And the Hermetic principles, back to truths, like you were just saying, one of the 7 Hermetic principles is all truths are but half truths. And all is mind. That's the first one. All is mind.
Yeah,
So,
I really like that one. And somebody was expressing that a little bit differently on the internet the other day. They were saying mindset. It's all, you know, what your mindset. Well, you know, mindset. What's the difference, you know?
it is. I'm super into neuro hacking, man. Robert Anton Wilson called it metaprogramming. Timothy Leary was into that too. You know, just like we can work our muscles and we get fit, anything you exercise, it becomes that. So, I mean, if we can do the same with synapses, we can retrain our reality tunnel for our perceptions and perspectives to be what we want. Like you had this just the other day. We were talking about, you know, our eyes aren't just viewers; they're projectors. It's like Jesus said, and I think it's really cool because this is in the book of Luke, which is phonetically similar to Luke's. Luke's is light, where it's where you get Lucifer, you know, because look. And we look with our eyes, right? Well, anyway, in Luke, he says, the eye is the lamp of the body. If thine eye be single, the body will be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, and evil gets taken out of context a lot, I think evil means used incorrectly.
Well, that's fascinating that you'd bring that up, because let me give John Lamb Lash's definition of it. And John Lamb Lash says that these aliens, demons, whatever they are, all of these are not capable of evil. The only thing that's capable of evil is a man, is a human being. Regardless of whether they got any help or not, it cannot become evil until they do it. These other spirits and intervening spirits and everything, they are only guilty of being in error. E-R-R-O-R. E-R-R-O-R. Error.
Right.
In other words, they are in error, but they don't even have the capability to be responsible for being evil. Is the impression I'm getting. We're so much greater than they are that they can't even be blamed for being evil. It's kind of how I took that.
That's legit. Their sentence, their prison sentence, is to be the prison guards for us. And so, in other words, if they are intelligences and sentient intelligences, they're bound to they're our underlings, and a little bit, and some of them are frustrated about that, but they got to do what we say if we evoke them correctly.
That's absolutely right.
And it's just like Saturn, Saturn gets a bad rap, but it's a dirty job. Somebody's got to do it. He's doing his job. He's the judge. Just like we were talking about, the ring when somebody gets married, because Saturn is the god of time and contracts and binding. And so when you put that ring on, also Saturn's exalted in Libra, right? Like astrologically,
I didn't know that.
Saturn is exalted in Libra. Libra is justice, the scales. That's why when you go into a courthouse, the judge wears the black robe, because Saturn's color is black.
Yeah, and it's also the reason that when kids are graduating from high school, they wear the black robes, and then they've got the black square hat.
The square hat, yep, squaring the circle. And now they're thinking inside the box that academia wants them thinking in, to compartmentalize things and just to
I mean, circles are not always a good thing. I mean, if you have a circle, of course, it's a perfect shape, but also it encompasses something and it binds something. So if they put your symbol inside the circle, it's like the AA symbol is a triangle pointed upwards with a circle around it. So the triangle pointed upwards, if that's a male or symbol of male, in other words, the symbol of AA is that they have captured or hindered the male divine.
We're talking AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Yeah, it is. I was looking at that the other day.
Yeah, somehow limiting the masculine divine somehow.
Yeah.
And you don't have to read very far into it. It says you must admit that you are powerless over your addictions or whatever. I mean, boom. I've never heard more just straightforward, self-defeating language in my life.
You know it. That's why I could never adhere to those precepts. I've done the rehab thing a time or two, and it's not my gig. I do really well for myself, staying clean and healthy just by mastering my own demons.
Oh yeah, I mean, AA, that's just more likely to make you relapse or whatever. The whole way it's set up.
I've got some pretty good hookups at meetings before, But absolutely, man. And you'll find that at all these different groups. It's like I was just talking to somebody earlier today about Joseph Smith, right? The Mormons. He was a Freemason. He was channeling Moroni, this Caucasian angel, right?
Nordic.
Caucasian, Nordic, Native American.
Oh yeah.
Right? Was the idea. And dude, that whole place, man, there's this, it's palpable there, the Masonic rule over that entire state, Utah.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't know that and I'm not, and a lot of people lambast the the Masons, on these conspiracy channels and stuff. And I personally I don't have any problem at all with the Masons. It's like there's a lot of
that's frustrating to me too.
Well, there's a lot of hideous, big, despicable crimes that have been committed by older white men. Okay, so does that make you bad? Does that make me bad? Right?
Exactly.
It's the same logic. It doesn't hold water.
Yeah, because your average Mason is totally ignorant to a lot of this stuff. Your average Mason's even ignorant to the Solomonic magic and Kabbalah that's in there.
Yeah, but and that there are people in the world, and maybe even probably ultimate people that would watch us, making a video similar to this, and that would be that they would agree that you two guys are evil because we're white and we're men. You know what I mean? Just.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. And this is back to polarity. There was a reason I wanted to. We were talking about what's good and what's bad, and that's another one of the Hermetic principles. I forget the context that it just came up in, but the Hermetic principles have been in my mind lately, and that there's like good and bad, we could say, are relative, or you were talking about these beings being used for evil. You were saying they're not inherently good or evil. It's how the man uses them. It's like guns don't kill people, assholes kill people.
Yeah, well, here's part of the idea that I've heard. They're feeding off of everything. So even just whatever emotions you and me are having during this conversation, you know, they're even feeding off that. But like, even if somebody was real happy and, you know, celebrating a victory of the Super Bowl or something like that, so even happy emotions, they can really collect off that.
They call that.
But what's the easiest to bring about is pain, suffering, misery, and stuff like that, because you just
fear.
Fear. That's the easiest. That's the most economical emotion that they can get.
You're right. So here that perfectly falls into the Hermetic principle of polarity. Is that there's just different extremes of the same thing. You know, there's hot and there's cold. They're the same thing at different extremes.
But there's an area where they will starve to death. And that's right in the middle. Balanced. No emotion. They run out of food. They're like, you know, that's really what it comes down to. I think unless you're like one of the highest initiates living alone on a mountaintop for 20 years, I really don't think you can get rid of them or shake them off. But you can starve them to the point of them being basically just shriveled up in the corner, just waiting for you to die, because they're attached to you and you're not giving them any food.
And that's why all the divisiveness, that's why you're Republican versus Democrat, you're liberal versus conservative. That's why all this stuff so heavily, if you look at the corporations that run the six companies that own every media outlet every Western media you can think of, it's like, and some of the main two, for example, are Turner Broadcasting, that's Time Warner, and that's owned by Ted Turner. And what was the name of the other one? It's Sinclair. It's the Sinclair bloodline. These are bloodline families that own these, and these are the two primary that run everything you see in the West anyway. And Time Warner is the liberal. You know, these are the ones that minds were blown when Trump took the election. And then the other end of them are the more conservative, that are, you know, that's just your black and white. It's your red and blue.
And what I'm starting to is that these people really believe in these causes. You know, like the people who are like on the right or the people who are on the left. But I'm not talking about your average people. I'm talking about the initiates, the people that go around in black robes and shit. You know, like Hillary Clinton and stuff. And I'm not saying that if she wound up at some solemn ritual, I'm not saying anything illegal or whatever, just a bunch of old guys meeting or something like that, and everyone was wearing robes, you know, she was with some, you know, they were having a special deal like where women were, you know, a meeting or something like that. I mean, these people would not be she wouldn't be getting in a fist fight with Trump. What you said about this and that, I mean, they don't fight like that in reality, you know what I mean?
Oh, no, you're saying they believe and understand it the way we're discussing it right now is what you're saying.
They'd more or less be friends at the country club. And they were. They've got there's a whole years and years of Hillary and Trump hugging and stuff, you know. They're buddies. So what do you think? Do you think they're adepts? Do you think they're actually high-level magicians, sorcerers? One of the most interesting things I've ever seen in American politics is where Newt Gingrich got on the Bill O'Reilly show, and Bill O'Reilly was asking him why a lot of Republicans were scared of Trump. And he said,
"Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, he said, because he's not in the secret societies. He hasn't been through the initiations. He doesn't know the rituals." I mean, he said that, dude.
It blew me away, because being familiar with the narrative, my first thought is, okay, who paid him to say that? You know what I mean?
Oh, well, no, I'm sure it was the truth. You don't think that Newt Gingrich is in the secret society? You don't think that every one of those people puts on black robes?
Oh, I think they do. I think they do.
Let me tell you,
he's saying that Trump's not, though.
Oh, no, I don't believe that. No, that's not true.
Yeah, right?
No, that's not true.
Trump wrote in his own book, he did an autobiography, and he wrote about, he mentions as a youngster, when he was like 12 or something, he talks about his Kabbalah lessons. And traditionally, Semitically, Kabbalah is not taught until a man reaches the age 40. You know, so this dude, he's so elite, you know, and affluent that's part of his basic studies. at middle school age, man. It's a trip.
For sure, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, he was raised, trained by the Illuminati. It doesn't matter that he grew up in a middle-class home. I mean, that's where you want these people to come from. You know, I mean, how hard is that to, Bill Clinton came from a trailer. Well, how hard was that? I mean, if you got complete domination of society, to make a man run off and leave his wife and kid, and just put economic pressure on him or whatever, get him fired from a job. I mean, that's just easy to orchestrate, easily orchestrated, and it adds to the mythos and it adds to the overall story. He worked his way up from a trailer park and everything.
I don't believe that, though. You really think so, or you think that's just what they tell the people?
No, who are you talking about? Bill Clinton?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about his.
I think
he went to Yale. He went to Yale, man.
No, I know, but he was raised in a trailer park by a single mom.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But all these people have stories, even Obama or like even Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur, his great uncle or something like that was like one of the most wanted Black Panthers in the United States.
Was he? Okay.
You know what the Black Panthers are?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's known. That never was a secret. They kind of used that to maybe hype him up a little bit. But that whole gang shit, him being in gangs, he wasn't in the gang until he was making records.
He wasn't hard, dude. Yeah, he was. You remember Digital Underground with Humpty? Yeah, he was a backup singer for the Humpty Hump, man, for those dudes. Yeah. Stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image of the style at you. I won't go on the whole thing, but yeah.
Go home. Everybody say home. Yeah. I remember
That's stupid, great, man.
Yeah, he's they just, I mean, at some
point...
He
was a singing and dancing performer, and then he became Thug Life.
Yeah. But he went to a high school with rich kids and a special arts high school. Did you know that?
I believe it.
He went to a special private school with Jada Pinkett Smith. They were the only two black people in the whole school.
Wow. You
know what I mean? And then there's other actors and shit have come from that school. And that's not mind-bending because it's a school that's set up to put out people like that, But those are some of their... that he doesn't talk about that in the interviews. Oh yeah, I went to a rich white kid school, to learn how to do drama and stuff like that, and be a stage presence.
So what do you think? An interesting thing about Will Smith that he just did was, his first major leading role was in a gay movie. All about the androgyny agenda and pushing homosexuality and transgender stuff and all that. Well, I call it the bruised gender agenda. Because look at Bruce Jenner, right? He's so brave. He was Time or People Magazine's Woman of the Year, and that really, Meanwhile, Michael Robinson is Michelle Obama the whole time, but it was the time to really push that forward. And what better mind control slave than a guy named Bruce Jenner to turn into a bruised gender and kill John Wayne like that? You know what I mean? I have a friend who says they're just killing John Wayne is what it is, man.
Was he raised to do this? Was Bruce Jenner, did they know that they were going to turn him into a woman back in the 70s?
This is where we wonder. I'm sure the plan at least went into effect when he was doing his Olympic stuff back then,
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it had to take some time to condition that, to make that, to program that,
And you know what? Even though he was what we're finding out is some of our greatest Olympian athletes, if not all of them, are all heavily MK Ultra mind controlled. And a lot of them have been through sexual abuse and stuff like that. Like Garitas, or I can't think of his name. He was the diver. He's died of AIDS. Greg Louganis.
I don't know about him.
He had his trainer was also his handler. Was also his male homosexual lover. And I mean, he would get abused. I mean, they had like the rough type of BDSM sex where he was getting beaten by this guy for like years.
Wow.
Weird kind of relationship like that. And then I think he ultimately gave him AIDS, and that's how the guy died, but they put these people through hell.
I got a lot of friends doing the transvestigation right now and coming out with everybody they think is a tranny from like people you wouldn't expect, like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Sandra Bullock, Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, that's where
a lot of them are really potential, but I also hear some dumb stuff behind it. They call it the Baphomet salute. And if you know anything, yeah, sure, there's the Baphomet symbolically represents androgyny, but that's because of your male and female principles. That's the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind.
What
Subconscious
is
is feminine.
Salute?
Sorry?
Did you say the Baphomet salute? Like a salute?
Yeah, that's what some of these Christian truthers call it. They say that these people, these Hollywood types,
you know about this though, right?
Are groomed from childhood.
You know about that though, right?
I can't see where your hand is. Yeah.
Like I've got one hand going up and one hand going down.
You like the Jesus does with the fingers, and you mean this one?
It's like what Washington does. Yeah, it's like you have this out, but the other hand's going down.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it means. I have some theories, man.
That's a Masonic.
Below,
that's one of your main Masonic stances or gestures.
You'll always see Jesus painted that way, especially when he's wearing a blue and a red. He'll wear the blue tash over a red daiquiri or whatever you call that thing. And here's, because of what I understand with the CSF, the secretion, that's where we get the word secret, is because of the pineal secretion and this is the secret fluid. It's your sexual fluid. If you preserve it during Tantra, like with Tantra, and what they call Mula Bandha is an exercise you do. It's the clinching of, you do in Kundalini Yoga, it's Kriya Satnams, where you do this exercise, and it's basically to cultivate the fluid that it drops down to your root chakra, and then you push it back up if you don't lose your life force energy, spill your seed. So what that is, I think that what this is, because this is the Christ, this is the milk and honey that flows from the promised land, it's manna from heaven. You know what I mean? The Ark of the Covenant happens in here. That's why you'll see the 40-foot pine cone at the Vatican, the sculpture of the pine cone that's underneath an apse, an arched building. And I think that what the finger pointing down, there you go, yeah, brother. It's the pineal gland. And when you see this imagery, I think it has to do with the flow of the CSF, because it flows down and it flows back up. You can get the same thing when you do the Star of David. It's the male and female principle, and when these things in unison, it becomes that the hexagram. But I think it relates to that. I mean, and you know how symbology is always multifaceted. I mean, there's different meanings for these things. But
and they can sometimes be similar. In other words, if you present somebody with a pine cone or whatever, that's the symbol. It's a symbol of royalty. Which that doesn't and so let's say royalty is a false system that was put on the human people to control them and stuff like that. Which in all intents and an outside idea that was unnaturally put on us. Well, which it probably is. That's probably true. Well, what better symbol would you have than, in other words, these guys get their little deals opened, or at least partially, but nobody else does. It's like we're the ones with the open pine cone.
And that goes back to, like I said, suppressing that. You want that superhighway, the etheric superhighway, free and clear, so you can put your magic across without problem.
That idea that you've expressed is the first time I've heard that concept. In other words, I knew that they're not wanting us to have any power up in the astral world or everything like that, but it never occurred to me that by not having us up there, it's clearing out all the traffic. That never occurred to me, and that makes perfect sense. It's like you're increasing the bandwidth of all them and turning our shit all the way off.
Right.
Because we don't have the secret of this.
Keeps it from being congested, yes. That's it. That's the secret. That's the... when this fluid descends, because it starts here, it's produced here. That's what the fluoride prevents. The fluoride calcifies the glands, so it doesn't do the thing. When it secretes, it falls down a shaft called the claustrum. This is why Santa Claus drops through the chimney, just like the secretion goes down the colostrum. And and there's some really interesting shit when you get into like the book of Revelation. It says, and I saw he who sat on the throne in his right hand, which means correct, righteous. In his right hand was a book, and on the back of this book, on the spine, in other words, on the spine, were 7 seals. So it's talking about your chakra system that runs, you know what I'm saying? And he's talking about the one in the throne. You know what I mean? And
now throne, it comes from the word thronos, the Greek word thronos, and that's also one of the types of the angelic hierarchies. So anytime they talk, so it has more than one meaning. But so whatever was described in what you're talking about, like the human chakra system, obviously the archetypes of the thrones, the thronos, they're somehow involved in that. And that's like 2 or 3 levels above the astral. And the astral is like the cherubim. Then above that you have the seraphim.
Yes.
Then up at the top you have the holy, like Michael and Uriel and all those, the archangels.
The archangels, yes.
But in between there's the powers. There's one that's called the power. There's a Greek name for it, but it can be interpreted as powers or authority. And then in the Bible we hear that Jesus came at him with all power and authority.
Yes.
That's what that means.
Right. And we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, against spiritual wickedness in heavenly places.
That's 2 different particular of the 9 levels of the angelic hierarchy. They're naming 2 of them right there. So those are the boys they bring in when they're ready to get you on a certain level or whatever.
Also, Jacob goes into I forget what land, but he names a city. And it's the city where he came face to face with God, and he said, "I will call this place Pineal, for I have seen God face to face."
Are you serious? I didn't know that.
Yeah, man, that's in there.
Well,
I'll have to find out exactly what scripture. Go on.
I told you that I had that Kundalini awakening or partial Kundalini awakening or whatever last year. Well, and my psychic that I have now, and this is what he tells me, and I don't know, I know that this guy's legit. I don't know that everything that he says is correct because he gets into some weird stuff about aliens and stuff like that. And I can't necessarily resonate with everything that he says. But he is telling me that my pineal gland, that my eye is opened, that my pineal gland is open, or at least partially. I'm being told this. And interestingly enough, around the time that I had that Kundalini awakening last year, I was practicing Asanga yoga with one-on-one with a real practitioner that's lived in India for years. And this was not in a class. This was I insisted on having one-on-one lessons. And I'd have to do the mantras and all that shit. And I was doing that shit for months while this happened. So that's just another coincidence, I think.
That's cool. The one that I've learned for what's supposed to be really good for Kundalini is Satkriya yoga, it's called. And you basically sit on your heels, I don't know if I can do it where you can see, but no, you can't really see me. You sit on your heels with your back perfectly straight, and my headphones are pulling this thing. And you put your hands up above like this, like you interlace your fingers and point straight up. And then you do a mula bandha. That's where you clench your asshole and you clench you contract your groin, and then you contract your navel, and then your diaphragm, and you push your chin into your chest, and you go Satnam, 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 and they call that Satnams. So you do Satkriya Satnams for 3 to 10 minutes, and then you lay in corpse pose for as long as you did the Satnams, and it promotes the flow. So it helps the chi get back up. And obviously you can't spill your seed. If you spill your seed, you're blowing that life force energy. And that's where all your creativity and your power to manifest comes from. That's why Tantra is so important, in sex magic with magicians who really know what they're doing. And there's other exercises that promote the CSF, the cerebral spinal secretion, and pranayama's breathing exercises. One thing I experimented with for a while that's awesome is the Wim Hof method. Or you know who Wim Hof is? He's this crazy Scandinavian guy that he hiked Mount Everest in his boxer shorts, and his method has to do with breathing techniques and then extreme cold exposure. So you'll take an ice shower after you do some of these exercises.
Now that
stuff
really
like
there
that.
shows his will, because if I do something like that or something real, I can start hyperventilating. You know what I mean? I don't see how they do that shit. I mean, but practice has a lot to do with it. Getting your body used to shit.
What happens physiologically if you do this breathing exercise, you hyperventilate and then you exhale everything after about 40 hyperventilations, 40 deep hyperventilations. You completely exhale and you hold it for as long as you can. And then you inhale as deep as you can and hold that for about 30 seconds. And then you do it all over again. This time you exercise while you're holding it out. When you get to the next hold out breath, you do like 30 push-ups, as many as you can do, and then before you breathe in again. And then at this point, your breathing is it's slowed down, it's very comfortable. It's not hard to do, and it oxygenates your blood is what happens, and you get lightheaded. It's a good meditative state, but you get lightheaded, and you alkalinize your blood via the oxidation. And then with your blood alkaline, it'll cure any kind of inflammation. It'll cure cancer, and you can handle extreme cold exposure. I did it to where I was taking ice showers and stuff like that for a little while I was experimenting with it, and it's bearable. You can stand. We're designed to be able to endure the nature and the elements, and if we know how to cultivate the right sort of we can totally live symbiotic with nature. We're meant to. It's this, our society's funny, and this sort of knowledge is suppressed because there's a bunch of dirty bedfellows making money off of suffering. And oppression.
Yeah, and I think really probably even another purpose of maybe these conspiracies and everything. I mean, dude, where they get us is on the food. It makes the food, FOOD.
Oh yeah.
That's where they get us.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense. You see the smartest people they're still eating out of the same grocery store you are. We've seen big changes in that. Big changes over the last. People are starting to wake up to that, and even if they're eating organic, and even if organic isn't really organic. Just making that choice to try to eat stuff that's better, I think is beneficial for the human race.
That's where so much of it is, because in this age, so many people, and myself included, I work constantly to not engage in unconscious activities, actions, thoughts, behaviors, patterns, because we're so used to. It's like you're driving a car, but you're not driving. You know what I mean? Like, we got this vehicle here, and we spend so much time not even being present. And I mean, to the point of, like, you sit down because you want to have a few potato chips or whatever. Before you knew it, you eat the whole bag, and you didn't even enjoy it. And you're not going to be nourished by that kind of shit, even if it was, nutritious, which it's not. But
you're going to be acidified. It's all
so,
to make more acidic instead of more alkaline.
Right. You want to raise your pH, and this is what alchemy is, man. This is, the Hebrew character shin is for fire. It kind of looks like a W, kind of looks like a flame, and it's shin. Mem is water, and that's your sexual waters. Your sexual waters are that secretion, that oil. The oil is Christ, is the christening oil.
The anointing, yeah.
The anointing. And so it's the three Hebrew letters that go into this are Shin, Mem, and Aleph. Aleph is, so we're talking elements. We're talking air, water, and fire. And these are the three base elements that you need in order to align yourself and the foods and understanding the alchemy behind plant matter, and because everything breaks down into the Holy Trinity, the triumvirate, which is the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. This is sulfur, mercury, and salt. This is Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva.
Right. Well, there's a good point, because you've got a feminine aspect in there, whereas in the Western with Christianity, it's like an all guys club. You know, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Well,
it's very
on the cool,
papa,
the Holy
patriarchal.
Ghost, the Holy Ghost on the cool. You're not supposed to know this, but you know what? Catholic priests or whatever know this. On the cool, the Holy Ghost is your feminine aspect. You
right.
know, they just don't tell you that. You know, they don't specify that, but you're thinking that's just another dude. You know, another male deal.
That makes sense. Spirit, because spirit is feminine. It's like if you're talking about the law of gender in Hermetics, you know, is that there's a masculine aspect and a feminine aspect. And in terms of, well, like I was saying, a lot of magicians believe that these may not be actual consciousnesses as much as aspects of our own psyche and archetypes, Jungian archetypes. And then what you're doing is your will, that fiery, passionate drive, is our conscious mind, our conscious thoughts. And our subconscious mind is full of all kinds of things we don't even realize are in there, because we're taking in everything all the time and it's recorded. And that's the hard part that's hard to overcome. We have to trick our subconscious minds to reprogram that stuff. But that's the feminine aspect.
Like of the Bible, the repetition of the Bible. It was put in our ancestors so much. I mean, everything was Jesus. Everything was the church. Every fucking thing. And that's even come down in our DNA. I mean, we are programmed Christians. There's no doubt about that. Just growing up in this
programmed
country,
into the patriarchal
even if you grew up in this
hierarchy.
country in an Indian family, and y'all had all your household gods and stuff. And I've done a lot of service work, you know, doing cable and security cameras and stuff like that in some people's homes. That was one really good aspect of that, as I've gone in many different types of homes. But even these homes where the people have come from another country like Pakistan or somewhere like this, that in no way means that their children are not being raised a Christian atmosphere. Or if your children are raised to not believe in God, or you're a strong atheist, if you're raising your children here in the United States, it's not like they're not being totally indoctrinated into Christianity, because they are.
Well, because it's a patriarchal system, yeah.
Well, yeah, and because they're around the effects of it from the other children at school. But what I've come to realize is this way out of religion, or what everybody thinks is a way out of religion, is they view the world scientifically. That is the biggest dodge. That's the biggest trap you can fall into, because first of all, science is not science. It's scientism. It's scientism.
It's a religion.
It's the most obnoxious. It's the most prejudiced religion there is.
Yeah.
Because it's prejudiced against facts.
Yeah.
You know, science as taught in the university.
Turtles all the way down. It's a bunch of theories that are built on top of theories that were never proven anyway. It's like your gravity and shit like that.
That were intentionally made like that to not make sense.
And you've heard the term turtles all the way down, right? Like, what does the Earth stand on? It stands on turtles all the way down. The reason they say that, it's an allusion to what's called infinite regress. Infinite regress means that you've built an answer on top of something that wasn't an answer to begin with. So you've got these false theories that then other false theories are put on top of to support them, and that's turtles all the way down, man. And that's modern science. It's scientism. You know, the true science is Hermetic philosophy, man. And Kabbalah and all that good stuff, man. All that really fascinating
and I don't
shit.
know necessarily that there's any traps or anything built into Kabbalah, but I'm sure there is. But one thing that I found is a little bit different from some people's on, you know, like my mindset or my cosmology. And that's because I realize I have chosen to accept this cosmology like John Lamb Lash puts out about the Sophionic narrative. Okay, I haven't met Sophia or anything like that, so really I'm just believing something that's in a book. But it does resonate with me. Well, that's nice. You can kind of choose your own belief system. But I've found out that there's an occult wisdom or whatever like that they don't really care what religion you are. but they want you to have a religion. And that seems to be some kind of law in the matrix. The matrix itself or whatever wants us to believe something. You know, where we get our freedom is to choose which one. But it is also said in the occult that you should never, it's okay to lose religion or whatever, but you should never adopt a different religion than the one that you were born under.
Yes, yeah, I read that in Abraham.
Like it would be bad for you or for me to convert to Islam.
Right,
converting because it's not in our DNA or whatever.
It's abandoning something like that is
It's okay for us to get away from Christianity, but as long as we don't try to become a fake Jew or an Islamist or something like that, you know, or say we got converted to Judaism or something.
Right.
But even any of those would be better than the Sophionic narrative. That's what they don't want. Is the Sophionic narrative. The Sophionic narrative takes every god, every aspect, everything, and puts them all in another category. And that's basically, it's not even like, you know, the planet, obviously the planets are not the enemy. You know, the mythology of these gods being the planets and stuff, that's not the enemy. But what it really comes down to is basically everything that's behind Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, the Abrahamic religions. I mean, from top to bottom, I mean, that's basically encompassing the idea that if Jesus was a good guy, then he was just somebody that was on the bad team and saw the light or whatever, so to speak, or somehow transcended above that. But I mean, the whole Bible as a whole, even, you know, including Jesus' teachings, there's a lot of hermetic stuff, the true stuff true of his teachings, but the idea that it says in the Bible that Jesus is like Melchizedek, being perfect in his generations, having no mother and having no father. So that right there defines Jesus as a clone. And we knew that he had a virgin conceptualized, you know, birth. You know, now some people are going to try to say that, a spaceship came down and impregnated Mary or whatever, and then but we're supposed to believe it's a holy and guardian angel. Well, I don't even know what it is, but one of the interesting ideas that I've come across in the last year is that it's only a small percentage of women, I don't know the name of it, but it's like, we'd call it a female ejaculation. But in the locker room in high school growing up, we called it squirting, as if a woman would do squirting. Well, apparently that's only a small percentage of women, like maybe about 6% do that. And I'm not saying that this is true, but it came across the idea that in extreme circumstances, these are the types of human beings that could procreate without a male. I'm not saying that's true, but just like without any sperm, they could create a human being.
Hypothetically.
If they were put in extreme environmental conditions, like, you know, Halle Berry,
where there were no men alive
like
or something, or.
And that's just an idea, you know. I'm not saying that's true or not true, but it does say in the Bible basically that Jesus is not human. And it does say he's the Son of God, but it also goes on to be very particular and say, because there's only one person in the Bible that's like Melchizedek. Except there might be another one. It might be Jeremiah, or anyway, one of those other ones. I can't, Isaiah or something like that. I can't remember it. It's one of the old prophets. I think they make a reference maybe to him, but they say that Jesus was one like unto Melchizedek, you know, being perfect in his generations, having no mother,
Noah
and having
was
no
perfect
father
in his generations, and Enoch, Noah's grandfather, Noah's great-grandfather, Enoch, he was one of the few that never died, you know.
He was taken up.
He became Metatron in Kabbalistic tradition, which is, yeah. And also I've heard Masonically, like in the Kabbalion, you know, Hermes, Mercury, Thoth, I've heard all likened to Enoch in Masonic tradition. Pardon me, man. I gotta get rid of these hiccups. I'm listening.
You know, it's like the whole idea that you know, say everything was a bad system. You know, like all this Christianity, or even the chakra system was some system put here to control us or something. Well, let's just explore for a second. If that was true, it still doesn't change the fact that that's reality. So you either have to decide if you're gonna. It's like the 48 Laws of Power, that book. You know, if we live in a world where people are trying to, manipulate things for their own good. So in an indirect way, maybe, or maybe even a direct way, they're trying to manipulate those around them. Maybe if that's true, then you can either play the game or you can just like go be in an insane asylum or something, or just go be the old man up on the hill or something. You got if the idea is this: what if the game itself is bad, or because of the evolutional conditions of the consciousness of mankind, we are in a point right now where we have attracted these oppressors to us. So there is actually a somewhat natural cause or meaning to all of this. It's just where we are right now, the human race.
I think like you've heard the I'm my own worst enemy type thinking, and we're all co-creators here, whether we realize it or not. We're creating together what's happening. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but if that is, and I mean, I can see how it could be, and pardon me, if that's what's going on, then us being our own worst enemy, it's like I was saying about the Illuminati that everybody's afraid of, the bad guys. We like to say us and them. There's no separation. That's ignorance at work. Our own, not me or you specifically, but as a collective people, our own parts of us that are at odds with ourselves are what's creating all that disorder and oppression and ugly shit.
Exactly. And so how mean, how evil, and how disgusting is the Illuminati? How far do you want to go? How bad do you want to make them? You know what I mean? There is that aspect to it. And, you talk about, your own worst enemy, like, dude, that really resonates with me, because no matter how you look at it, it cannot be argued that the single most limited, even if you take the most successful person, the most, homogenized, the best man or woman on the planet, the single thing that is holding them back the most from whatever their desires or goals are or whatever is them.
Yes.
We could get greater than we could even get in 10 lifetimes somehow in this lifetime, and we would still each individually be the main thing that was holding each one of us individually down. Just because my show's getting bigger and they want to.
You think that had been done on something as basic as some kind of hypnotic anchor?
Could be one in there that everybody sees, and that it's just
but only works on you.
Or the sorcerer has to know, hey, that movie, and then maybe, I don't know, or it could be something where, like the UFO. Unimaginable what type of spiritual connection or entity attack.
You think he talks to the 72 or some of them?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this guy is fucking powerful, dude. I mean, you can just almost sense the power coming off him. But there's a couple things even before, like, that said the Grady Bunch. And it looked like a poster for the Brady Bunch, except it was in black and white. That's a referral to Grady McMurtry.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize any of the people in the pictures. They were all like animated drawings or whatever. But he showed it to me. And I didn't know exactly what impression I was getting. But I know enough. If you're going to look at it for even more, they're... or something like that. They're sending some...
Yeah. Doing you one of these.
Yeah, exactly. Or, something like that. And there is a lady who's doing very good at making the stelae of revealing. She sells these on the internet. Different stuff having to do with Enochian magic and stuff. And she's a sister and everything. But one of her prize deals is this thing. It's called the stelae of revealing, which...
I'm familiar with Newt. It's got Newt, the goddess, up above, the firmament goddess, and yeah.
So you can buy one.
That's the one that the famed, when Crowley's Crowley's wife went into that museum in Cairo and found 666 right before,
that's
was that Iowa?
Yeah, and that's where they got, they received the book of the law and everything.
Yeah. And that was in 3 days. Did you know that? And we just passed the anniversary of that. That was right around the equinox, the vernal equinox that we just had about a month ago.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that doesn't.
It was, the whole thing was purportedly channeled in 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
let's see that. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
This is